Hello everyone, today I'm going to tell you briefly but thoroughly how to get any resources in sufficient quantities in Season 11 of Diablo 4. Yes, straight up, no fluff, no filler. Any resource and plenty of it. Mostly we will talk about Scrolls of Restoration, Neathiron, and Mythic items. New off is with you. Let's get straight to it. The main source of almost everything this season is Goblin Sigils, Treasure Breach. Literally everything drops there. You will fully cover all resource needs, including Obdusite and Socket Prisms needed for item power 800 gear. You will also partially cover your Neathiron needs. More on that later. Getting these sigils is no trouble at all. They drop in plenty from world bosses and from Azmodan's chests. You can also craft them at the Occultist. Don't forget, if you have one such sigil, then in a party of 4 people where everyone has one, you can run it not once but 4 times, meaning you get 4 times the loot. Sigils are crafted at the Occultist using sigil powder. The powder itself drops as separate loot from the sources listed on the sigil powder. We also get powder from salvaging unwanted sigils. You can get a treasure breach sigil when crafting with roughly a 1 in 40 rate. Bottom line, all sigils except the Mythic Prankster. More on that shortly, and the treasure breach are simply trash. I just throw that trash away. But some players go to town and salvage them for powder at the Occultist. They craft sigils from it, salvage them, and craft again. For each salvaged sigil, regardless of its type and the rarity of the affix on it, you get 15 powder. Crafting a sigil requires 60 powder. And so on in a loop, craft, salvage. People with iron nerves do this. Scrolls of Restoration. Some players don't have enough of them. Personally, I have plenty. For 2 reasons. First, trying to get a greater affix from tempering at the blacksmith on every single item makes no sense at all. Why? Because, for example, the chance to get a mythic aspect like Shaco or Starless Skies on any item during sanctification is tiny, about 1 in 500. The chance to get another useful legendary aspect is higher, about 1 in 100. Note, you can get mythic aspects on any item type and any item rarity during sanctification. This means you can get any mythic aspect on a legendary, unique, or mythic item, and it doesn't matter if it's armor, jewelry, or a weapon. That's about mythic aspects. But actually, we're still talking about Scrolls of Restoration, don't get lost. In practice, all this means you don't need to re-roll tempering after tempering for a greater affix on all items. Yes, the greater affix on tempering is only available on items with 800 item power. At 750, that option isn't available. Greater affix is the star. It means the maximum value multiplied by 1.5. There's a short and clear video about crafting. If you have questions, watch it. Yes, got sidetracked again, so what does this mean in practice? In practice, it's worth fishing for a greater affix from tempering only on items with 800 item power that have 3 or more desired stats. In reality, that's about 20% of items. I don't do the Horde in this season. Got tired of it. I don't go to the Citadel at all in any season. I get Scrolls of Restoration from random drops, plus they sometimes drop in the Pit in Kurast Undercity and some other places. Scrolls are guaranteed drops from Citadel and the Horde. Sparks for mythic items, given as the sparks themselves from the seasonal journey and from salvaging the mythics themselves. Mythics drop in plenty everywhere. That is, since last season, mythic items can be obtained as a drop from any activity in the game. Any means any, but on Torment 1 or higher. Now about the drop chances for these mythic items. Yes, earlier, when mythics were valuable, I kept statistics on their drop every season, link in the description. Since last season, mythics are just trash. Junk in the sense that active players get about 20 of them per day. So sources Uber Boss is any, about 3%. Kurast Undercity, tribute for a mythic, about 30%. The tributes for mythics themselves drop in large quantities from world bosses and Azmodan's chests. From an Azmodan's chest, the drop chance for a mythic is about 5%. The keys for Azmodan's chests themselves are farmed from the bosses of the same name in their layers. These are Duriel, Andariel, and Belial. You get from 3 to 5 keys there. Also in Season 11, you can get them, but only 1 each from Duriel in the Helltide, Andariel as a Kurast boss, and Belial as a Pit boss. The most profitable way to get mythics is the sigil for Nightmare Dungeons, the Mythic Prankster. This sigil drops from the world boss and Azmodan's chests about once per 500 sigils. It's also crafted at the Occultist with roughly the same rate. Same story here as with Treasure Breach sigils, you can find a party for rotation. Also, a reminder, a mythic can drop from any activity. Gambling is also an activity, and there you can get a mythic item of any type regardless of the item type you're gambling for. For example, gambling boots can give you a mythic helmet. Neathiron. We needed to get the greater affix property on the 25th roll of masterworking at the blacksmith. Also, it's needed to change that gray to affix if it doesn't suit you. Main source Treasure Breach Sigil. Also, Neathiron sometimes drops from Whisper Tree caches in Legion events and random sources. From all world bosses except Belial, it drops occasionally, but from Belial himself it always drops from 1 to 3 Neathiron. How I do it on Sorcerer. On current Sorceress build, unique items only drop from Varshan, Zir, and of course Belial. I sell keys for Grigor, Beast, and Urivar. Runs for Grigor and the Beast aren't expensive, 2 or 3 million per piece. But for Urivar, because he's the main experience supplier in Season 11, runs cost 10 million. I laid out everything about getting experience in a recent video, lots of useful stuff there, go check it out. So 1 key for Urivar costs 10 million. That is 12 keys equals 1 run. That's 120 million. But buying keys for Belial costs 27 to 30 million per key, meaning 54 to 60 million per run. Therefore, a run for Belial costs half as much as for Urivar. Why? Because you get no experience for killing Belial at all. But there's a drop of any uniques, plus you'll get more Neathiron than you can spend. Urivar is more about experience and Paragon. I hope you find a balance between Neathiron and experience. At Azmodan, I only open the left and right chests. On the left, Andariel's chest drops keys for Urivar. On the right, Duriel's chest drops keys for Zir and Grigor. Getting a waterfall of nightmare dungeon sigils can happen from any chest. That is, the chance for a mass drop of sigils isn't tied to the chest's name. The chance for drops of various nightmare dungeon sigils and Cuirass tributes is heavily influenced by the seasonal Azmodan strength rank. It's leveled up on Azmodan itself. How to level everything according to the season's strength in general, and Azmodan's strength in particular. There's also a video, Golden Runes. In the current season, this isn't a problem. But if you suddenly decide to roll for +3 to a desired stat at the occultist on an industrial scale, then you'll need it. In the current season, I did make a video about gold after all. Although for 99% of players, this resource, like any other, is just trash now. Runes are also not very valuable now because mythics, for which they are mainly used in crafting, drop in sufficient quantities anyway. Now briefly about the optimal farming system. This whole system is a closed loop. To start, as soon as you reach Torment 1, you need boss keys. We get keys for bosses from the Helltide, from Whisper Tree chests, Cuirass tributes for boss keys, chests for boss keys in the Mercenaries' Den, and Azmodan's chests. These activities drop keys for lesser bosses. Killing lesser Uber bosses gives keys for higher rank Ubers. After killing rank 1 and 2 Ubers, with a small chance Belial's shadow appears, which drops keys for Belial himself. You need to kill Andariel and Duriel 7 times each in their lairs because each kill gives you 3 keys for their Azmodan's chest. And killing Belial gives you 5 keys for an Azmodan's chest, but I almost never open it because the loot there is poorer than in the side chests, and the chance to get 100 sigils is the same for all chests. Got the keys, which are called essences, and go to Azmodan, where we get loot nightmare dungeon sigils and the boss run keys themselves. Approximately every third chest gives you from 80 to 120 Nightmare Dungeon sigils. And among this trash, there will definitely be a couple Treasure Breach, and occasionally for the Mythic Prankster. Azmodan also drops huge amounts of Cuirass tributes and Horde compasses. All of this drops in amounts exceeding even the most insane demands. Therefore, running any tributes in Cuirass or the Horde in a party only makes sense to speed up the process. For variety, Azmodan chest keys should also be farmed through Helltide, the Pit, and Cuirass Undercity. And in conclusion, I'll give advice I always repeat. Try to diversify your gameplay as much as possible. Don't get stuck on one thing. Visit all activities. If you haven't been sitting in the Horde non-stop in previous seasons, then drop by there. Don't forget about the Legion sometimes either. 2 mythic aspects will work simultaneously. For example, if you have a Shako equipped and you get the Shako aspect on boots, both will work. Mythic aspects work 2 at a time, but not 3. Duplicate legendary aspects will not work. That seems to be all about farming. I hope I didn't forget anything. If I did, leave a comment. If I didn't, write what a great guy I am. I'll appreciate a like and sub. Thanks for watching. See you.